Live from Seattle, this is the Northwest's most watched late-night newscast with Don Porter, Tony Ventrella, and Jeff Renner. This is King5 News.
Good evening. Abortion is permitted under the law in this state, but pro-life, that is, anti-abortion groups, are hoping a decision today by the U.S. Supreme Court could change our law and laws in other states like it. Women's rights groups are fearful and outraged. Said Molly Yard of the National Organization for Women today, quote, "The gauntlet has been thrown down. War has been declared on women of the United States." The High Court will review a Missouri case, even though the Supreme Court said in the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that states cannot interfere with a woman's right to choose an abortion. The Missouri legislature tried to limit abortion, declaring that life begins at conception and banning doctors from even discussing abortion with patients. Coupled with anti-abortion demonstrations here and in front of the Supreme Court, pro-life groups say if the Supreme Court upholds the Missouri law, it could spell the end for Roe v. Wade.
We would like to see them consider the issue of when does life begin. Bring the focus back to the real issue, which is life itself, not privacy.
Pro-choice people are all holding our breath right now. This case could result in the overturning of Roe versus Wade if there are 5 votes to do that.
That, of course, is the big question. The Supreme Court has changed with the addition of Justices O'Connor, Scalia, and Kennedy, all chosen by an administration pledged to overturn the 73 decision legalizing abortion. It's estimated that 30% of pregnancies in this country end with abortion. That's about 1.5 million per year. A new report on abortion was sent to President Reagan today by U.S. Surgeon General C. Everett Koop. Sources say the report, which has not been made public, found that, according to Koop, there is not enough evidence to say that abortion generally has a negative mental or physical effect on women. Koop said that he found, quote, "whole segments of the population who say, the best thing that happened to me was my abortion." Well, it goes pretty hard against all the odds, but British investigators say it looks like both engines of a brand new Boeing 737 failed last night, causing this crash near the village of Kegworth. The plane went in only a few hundred yards short of the airport runway. 44 died, 82 were injured. How do the experts rate the chances of both engines on a twin-engine jetliner failing simultaneously?
What is the statistical likelihood of both engines failing at the same time?
I think the proper figure is more than 10 million to 1 against.
So for the second time in a week, Prime Minister Thatcher visits a small British town, comforting survivors of a major air disaster. And 2 other British airlines have taken their new 737s out of service, though the engines employed on those aircraft have excellent reliability records. Back in this country, in Olympia, Washington, state lawmakers convened their centennial session today amid pomp, ceremony, pledges of bipartisan cooperation, and a lot of new faces as well in the Democratic House and in the Republican Senate. As usual, money, taxes, and spending are expected to dominate the agenda. The highway lobby wants money for roads, more than the 3-cent-a-gallon gas tax increase the governor has proposed. And the Children's Initiative will force the legislature to confront school funding and school child protection to the tune of more than $300 million. And topping the governor's agenda, tax reform. Aides agree a bumpy road lies ahead.
Sure, and the governor told me that. I mean, that's not any big secret around this place. You don't have to be much of a student of history to know how difficult it's going to be.
What odds would you give yourself right now?
Very good, better than 50-50.
And for Lieutenant Governor John Sherberg, his last opening ceremony at the Capitol, he's stepping down after a record 32 years in office. And in the nation's capital today, Ronald Reagan's last budget, $1.15 trillion for 1990. What's in it for us? Well, there's more money for fighting forest fires and to clean up nuclear waste at Hanford, and also provisions that would, if enacted, hike Bonneville power rates and lift the ban on exporting raw timber cut on federal forest lands. The Reagan budget would increase defense spending, space programs, and provide money for the congressional pay raises. At the same time, the budget cuts farm programs by almost $10 billion and would cut growth in both Medicare and Medicaid programs. The president projects a $90 billion deficit, considered too optimistic by Democrats, who pronounced the Reagan budget today already irrelevant.
It certainly is not a kinder and gentler America budget. It continues to unravel the social safety net by targeting programs for the homeless, Medicaid, and child nutrition.
George Bush will very likely put his own spin on his own budget proposal due later this month, but he is expected to go for more cuts in social programs rather than higher taxes. A new survey out today by the Associated Press and Media General suggests that Americans are personally concerned about the homeless. 6 out of every 10 people surveyed say there are homeless in their communities, and more than half say they'd be willing to pay higher taxes to help ease that problem. Both Vice President Bush and President Reagan paused to pay tribute to Japan's late Emperor Hirohito. Mr. Reagan paid his respects at the Japanese embassy in Washington. The president, who is recovering from his minor hand surgery, signed the embassy condolence book. While in Japan, Hirohito's son Akito reaffirmed his role as symbol of the state and unity of the people, and outside the palace, hundreds mourned. And sumo wrestlers paused to remember the emperor, who was a big fan of sumo wrestling. Still to come tonight, the Golden Arches try to bridge the gap of acceptance in Winslow.
Companies that care specials. Distinctive, informative, entertaining, and award-winning. King5 Television, in association with area businesses, continues the dedicated task of producing special programming that brings significant topical issues to the people of the Northwest. Since Companies That Care began in 1985, our locally produced programs have won well over 24 local, national, and international awards, including the Presidential Award for Private Sector Initiatives. But the number of awards isn't as important as the fact that Companies That Care Specials continues to perform the valuable community service of issue-oriented programming. We appreciate the support that these companies provide and salute their continued effort to make a positive impact on our community. Companies such as Dairy Queen, Pacific Cataract and Laser Institute, Nutrisystem, Alaska Airlines, and GTE, all companies that care.
Learn how to help your child succeed in school. Call for King5's It's Okay to Study Parents Resource Guide, 624-9955.
Tough going today for Americans at that Paris weapons conference on chemical weapons. The Soviets say they are not convinced by U.S. evidence that the plant in Libya is designed to make chemical weapons. Libya's foreign minister called American allegations part of, quote, a vile campaign against Libya. And Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi threatened today to, quote, attack anything American we can see if the U.S. should employ military force to put that plant out of action. The judge in the Iran-Contra case kept Oliver North in suspense today. Judge Gerhard Gazelle delayed action on the special prosecutor's call to drop the main conspiracy and theft charges against North. It seems the judge wants a sworn statement first to the effect that banning the release of classified information during a trial was made by high officials of the Reagan administration and not just the U.S. Attorney General. Here in Seattle, a Seattle man is held in the King County Jail tonight. He's suspected of fatally shooting another man who threw snowballs at his car. The man is one of 4 people who turned themselves into police early this morning. 22-year-old Richard Todd Flynn died Saturday in a fight that began when he and 2 friends were throwing snowballs at passing cars in North Seattle. The 3 others who turned themselves into police have been released. A hostile crowd couldn't wait to vent their anger tonight. The touchy subject they're angry about, the potential annexation by Seattle of the shoreline area. The unlucky target, Seattle City Councilwoman Jeanette Williams. About 300 shoreline area residents packed into the Richmond Beach Congregational Church, where Williams made an attempt to sell them on the idea of annexation, but most residents just weren't buying it.
But I'm going to raise my children in shoreline. They have a good school district. If Seattle becomes annexed and becomes a part of the Seattle School District, I'll sell my house that I just bought. I'll move to Edmonds.
Other objections voiced tonight, Seattle's growth and Seattle's traffic problems. Ms. Williams reminded the unsympathetic crowd that annexation is only in the study phase right now, and ultimately it is they who will have the final decision. Now, this is not annexation, more of a business proposition. The familiar Big Mac is trying to make its way into the town of Winslow. But as Larry Calley tells us tonight, city officials there want to chew this one over for a while.
This new mini-mall in Winslow is about as bright as it gets in this Bainbridge Island town. Subtle signs like these are part of a new city law which some say is aimed at keeping out signs like these and the businesses they promote.
This city needs business. It needs the support of business, or the citizens will suffer.
What some citizens think they will suffer is a McDonald's, which is planned here. It would be the first fast food franchise in the city. Resistance is coming from City Hall with the sign ordinance, and now a proposed ban on styrofoam and other fast food plastics.
You know, as you drive in town, it says no soliciting, and you also have one of these.
Those types of
The city is also considering major design and construction restrictions for the area where the restaurant would be built. A representative from McDonald's was at the hearing. He took a lot of notes, but made no comment. In Winslow, Larry Callie, King 5 News.
Wow, that's a battle. Sonics in a battle tonight.
Yeah, they were.
And they did up Cleveland, huh?
Terrific game. It was very entertaining, almost a sellout, not quite, by about 500 fans, but those 500 empty seats saw a good game, and so did the 13,500 in the person of people. What? I have no idea what that means. I'll be back in a minute to unravel this whole thing. Hang on, we're coming right back.
We'd like you to be a part of our studio audience to celebrate the differences.
For free audience tickets, call 448-3795 during business hours.
Join us.
Some stars get high from the roar of the crowd, but some get their thrills from booze and pills. Now, Entertainment Tonight shows you how some of Hollywood's biggest stars came back from addictions that nearly cost them their careers. Has Hollywood really cleaned up its act? From high to low to just say no, you'll see how Liz Taylor, Liza Minnelli, Drew Barrymore, and others got out of the fast lane for good. It's Hollywood on the Wagon, the inside story on the next Entertainment Tonight.
Weeknights at 7 on King 5. King 5 is proud to serve the community of Auburn. To get involved in your community, call the mayor's office at 931-3041.
We figured out what it was Tony said, and now he's going to say it again.
What I'm trying to say is it was nearly sold out at the Coliseum tonight, and it really should have been because the folks who didn't go missed a great game. Sonics ended Cleveland's 11-game winning streak tonight by beating the Cavs in a thriller 105-103. Derek McKee, 32 points in the game. Here's a look at what happened at the Coliseum tonight. The Cavaliers took control in the first quarter. Ron Harper had 9 points in that period. Cleveland built a 37-34 lead after one. But Derek McKee kept the Sonics close. He had 19 of his 32 in the first half. And at the break, this one was tied up at 55-55. We go to the third quarter. Cleveland took the lead again. Dale Ellis misses. Craig Elo out of WSU goes all the way for 2 of his 25. A nice game by Elo tonight. 5 straight buckets by Xavier McDaniel gave the Sonics the lead again. And after 3, they were up 79-76. Down the stretch, Elo picks up the bad pass and goes down for another pair. That gave the Cavs a 4-point lead with just over a minute to go. With 9 seconds left and the score tied, Cleveland could not get the ball inbounds. Seattle took over. They went to Sedale Threet. He drives the he takes the shot from out there, misses the rebound by McKee. He slams it home, and the Sonics led 105-103. Cleveland missed the last second shot, and the Sonics win it by 2.
It was a big game for us. Cleveland is maybe playing the best ball in the NBA, and for us to come in here, for us to get this win is good for us because I think it was a good game. We both played with real good intensity, good defense, and it was an all-around good game.
We lost a game to them early in the season, and we had opportunity to win, and we just don't want to give up anything here at home.
Dale Ellis with 17 points, well off his average, but played a fine fourth quarter. Derek McKee, the hero, with 32. So the Sonics win at 105-103. Seattle has won 11 straight at home. They go to Portland tomorrow night to play the Blazers. Boston over the Clippers tonight, 119-84. Utah beat Charlotte 114-92. The Sixers beat Dallas 121-103. And Chris Mullin had 39 points in this game as Golden State beat the Phoenix Suns 130-124. In college basketball, some terrific games all around the country tonight. We go to the Spectrum in Philadelphia, 4th-ranked Syracuse against Villanova. The Orangemen put on a great show whenever they play. The steal here by Derek Coleman, the alley-oop to Sherman Douglas for the Jam. The Orangemen led at halftime 38-36, but in the second half, the Wildcats came back. Gary Massey drives all the way in for the Jam. Villanova upsets 4th-ranked Syracuse tonight 75-73. Meanwhile, in West Lafayette, Indiana, Purdue against Indiana in this Big Ten rivalry. First half as it ends, Lauren Clyburn hit the three-pointer for Purdue to tie the game at 28-28. We go to the second half. The Hoosiers went on a tear. Big Joe Hillman led Bobby Knight's team. His bucket here gave Indiana a 9-point lead. They held on for dear life. Indiana beat Purdue 74-71. 73. The rest of the college scores: Villanova by 2 over Syracuse. 9th-ranked Louisville beat Virginia Tech. Ohio State shouldn't have even played this team. They beat them 108-61. Oklahoma beat Nebraska, and Indiana over Purdue 74-73. Kansas over SMU. Baseball news: Cincinnati Reds catcher Johnny Bench and Red Sox outfielder Carl Yastrzemski have been elected to baseball's Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Bench is only the 13th catcher to make the Hall. He hit 389 career homers, won 10 Gold Gloves for defense, also caught 4 World Series games for the Big Red Machine. Johnny Bench in the Hall of Fame, and Carl Yastrzemski in the middle of your screen, the only American leaguer ever to get 3,000 hits and more than 400 home runs. Yaz and Johnny Bench in the Hall of Fame. Finally, tonight there were some special things going on out at the Children's Hospital this afternoon. Among those taking part, local golfer Don Bees. Yesterday, Don was in Southern California playing in the Tournament of Champions. Today, it was at Children's Hospital here in Seattle, where representatives of the GTE Northwest Classic donated $120,000 to local charities. In the last 3 years, GTE Northwest Classic has donated $360,000 to charities.
I'd be remiss if I did. The PGA Golf Tour has always raised a little money for charities, but it seems like in the last